This past April, visual artist Anthony Darby wowed audiences with the closing of his first solo gallery exhibit, Familiar Faces, at the SoWhat Art Gallery in Orlando, Florida. Darby's work was a wall-to-wall installation of faces drawn throughout the gallery. These portraits, inspired by the usage of Near Eastern and ancient Egyptian techniques used in art, beckoned art-goers to be pulled in to see the similarities that we all share when stripped down to our eyes, noses, and smiles. Queens, New York native, and Florida-raised artist Darby sits down to talk about how he stumbled upon the art world, his current obsession with faces, and what he desires for the future of art. Stay with us for another episode of the Vulgar Geniuses podcast. Are you currently looking for a bookstore that has a great selection of books? Well, Kizzy's Books and More is that bookstore. Visit www.kizzy'sbooksandmore.com to purchase your next book for our book club. Use coupon code VulgarGenius to receive 10% off the subtotal of your first order. Anthony Darby is a visual artist born in New York and raised in Florida, practicing in painting, illustration, and graphic design. Inspired by lowbrow art and technology's influence on art, his work focuses on the translation of his craft from traditional to digital mediums. Darby's Familiar Faces series are portraits inspired by twisted perspective, a Near Eastern and ancient Egyptian technique used in art, and having a multi-perspective representation from a single viewpoint. Approaching portraiture with contemporary minimalism, he translates essential traits of facial profiles to its core elemental features with line and color, depicting the similar and different features we share amongst one another, regardless of gender and or race, through the absence and or implementation of color. The familiar faces are visual riddles that are meant to overstimulate the fusiform gyrus, the part of the brain that recognizes faces. Welcome to the show, Anthony. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Happy to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us. This is definitely a treat and a pleasure. You are our artist for the month of April, which is our anniversary month. This is our third year. And last year we wanted to start doing something different where we weren't only just talking to writers, that we wanted to talk to creators. And this is the first time that we're able to speak to somebody who lives in the same city as us, and to be able to go out and see their work. And it has been truly a gift to be able to see. You currently have an installation up right now over at the SoWhat Arts Gallery that is a part of the Favo Art Village over in Orlando, Florida, downtown area. And it is truly amazing.
It was so cool to see.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, the pictures on your Instagram could never encapsulate what it is to actually be in that space. And I think that's like, that's one thing about art. Is one thing that you're seeing it on the digital platform, but to be able to be in the room and to see what you have done with this space of putting these faces all over the room. But before we get into talking about you and your art and all of this stuff, I'm going to pass it off to Denny, because this is the part of the conversation that we like to help loosen up the bones and get you nice and settled. So this is our hot seat question.
Welcome to the hot seat. Bum, bum, bum. Also, that was unplanned.
Yes.
So, my child likes to ask this question for every person that he meets. What's your favorite color?
Red.
Same as my husband. What is your guilty pleasure?
Ice cream.
A particular favor or just any ice cream?
Any ice cream. I'm lactose intolerant, so it's a big deal.
Well, welcome, comrade. Me too. I am. If you are an artist, what would have you been pursuing in college?
Like animals, I'll probably be like a vet or something.
Do you snack when you create?
Yeah, not really. No, no. I drink a lot of water. Try to just drink a lot of water.
Hydrate, hydrate. Um, when not creating, where can we find Anthony Darby?
You really can't find me when I'm always creating. I'm just around. You can find me. I always post it. I'll be in Orlando at a bar doing a pop up somewhere. Yeah.
If you were stuck with somebody while you have to create, who would it be and why?
Like actor, maybe Jamie Foxx. Let's just say Jamie Foxx. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like he made me laugh.
If there was a form of art that you can make for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Like marble sculptures.
Have you tried dabbling into that at any point?
I made a bust one time. It was terrible. That was the only time. I've never like went on a pottery machine though. That'd be cool. No, I never really dove into that.
Well, outside of what you would imagine working in a different art form, we're going to talk about your familiar faces and everything that you have done during your time here in Orlando, which has been truly a treat for anyone who can get their eyes on your work. It is simply amazing, and it is breathtaking, and it's one of the most surprising things that will just make you like pause and you're walking around, you're like, wait a minute, what is this? This is different. And I think the very first time that I saw your work, I feel like it was in the Orlando Art Museum or Museum of Art, but I know for sure that it became solid for me when I saw you at the SoWhat. I believe it was maybe their first or second art show that they had showing in this past year, and you had a piece there, and I just kind of remember just like standing in front of your piece, and then Kelly is like, oh, he's the one that did it, and you're kind of like off to the side, or you might have been talking to somebody, but you were very quiet, but your piece is very loud, and there is really something that is just like not necessarily shocking, but definitely it draws the person into the piece. And then to see you, it always feels like this contrast of what it is that you are doing, and this very quiet, sweet natured person who is always so humble, and is that's what we're going to be talking to you about you and your artwork. So the very first question that I have for you is, I want you to walk us through how this art thing became this thing that you find yourself constantly consumed by, that you're always doing. Where did this love of art come from, and how did it get you to the point where you are now?
Yeah, so I've been drawing, my whole life. The pencil is the thing you always have growing up in school, right? Like to write your name on the paper and answer the tests. And so, I just always like to doodle and stuff while we taking notes. Um, on and off through the years, I dabbled. It wasn't until high school I started painting, and getting into that type of world of art history and painters and classical painters. When I got to college, when I moved to Orlando, that's when I like started getting into like street art and contemporary art outside of traditional, art that they teach. Um, and yeah, I just seeing that Orlando was so supportive of the arts, I kind of just kept going with it. And so yeah, when you get opportunities like that, here, as opposed to the small town I was in where there wasn't really much opportunities in the art field, you kind of get consumed by it. And that's what's happening with these spaces. Yeah.
When you say small town, what small town is that?
Sebring, Florida. It's south central, like south of Lakeland.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So what made you come to Orlando? Was it just for school? Was that the main reason?
Yeah, well, I essentially it was for school. I went to community college over there for 2 years, and when my like rent was up, I wanted to me and my friend from high school, we decided to move up to Orlando. Um, just because it was a cool city. We've been there like once or twice, and we've been to Tampa and stuff, and we just decided Orlando. Yeah.
What does the artistic process for you look like when you're deciding to create something?
The process, um, the process when I have like a conceptual like idea, when there's like an objective, is I sketch it out first on a notepad. I take it to my iPad and then I trace over it in the iPad. Um, and then I just play with like the same image in different ways before I actually hit the canvas. Um, the black and white ones that I've been showing now has been more just live performances, so I haven't really used that process in that, but that process is what I use when I create generally. The black and white thing is kind of just a live performance flow thing that just kind of happened because I didn't paint, like use paint. So I just use a marker and it's just simpler that way. Yeah. Mhm.
So the installation that you did for SoWhat was just truly just straight out of your mind in the moment.
Yeah, yeah. I was just listening to music and thinking, and when you make a mistake, you build off that mistake and it becomes a different thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine last night who's an art teacher over at Lake Nona High School, and I was telling her that I had gone to the Orlando Museum of Art, and you had a piece there, and I sent it to her, and she was like, "Whoa!" And she was like, "That's the same guy from the art show," and I was like, "Yeah," and she said, "He didn't sketch that out," because she went immediately to your Instagram and she's looking at the video and she's like blown away. She said, "My God, he did not sketch that entire room out. He did it free." I was like, "Yeah," because I didn't take that into consideration until she said it. So then my question is that something that when you make a piece like that, and are there mistakes for you? Is there a way that you work around a mistake, or you just kind of like already know, like, this is going to be a face? I know where everything goes. I just need to put it how I want it to perceive it to be. Of it going to be an actual person that I know, or just a made up face?
Yeah, so I mean, every face is essentially the same, right? Just the eyes, nose, and some lips, right? So it's just once you put that, and you pretty much have half of it done already. The end result is just seeing what kind of hat, hairstyle, or accessories. So when I do make a mistake, which I have plenty of times on that wall, I just add a cloud, and it's all better. So yeah, and the fact they're not full faces, they're all like quarter faces, and they're overlapping. Kind of makes it easier too.
So can you explain this when you said twisted perspective to our listeners
Mhm.
when we were reading your bio that you used in this series? Like you said, it just kind of like came up out of your head. And then, and it has roots from all the way to like near Eastern ancient Egypt. What does that specifically mean?
Yeah, so hieroglyphics. I came across. Well, we all know ancient Egyptian art, with hieroglyphics and the gods and how they depict them. And I just thought that was such a a basic way of representation that that's not seen today. I mean, Picasso, yeah, but that was inspired by African art, right? What's the cubism? There you go.
Mm.
So that whole thing was just kind of just a reiteration of that. So I kind of saw it as like the roots of that in a way, because artists, the first thing people ask when they find your artist is, can you do my portrait, right?
Mm.
And so just based off that, the twisted perspective really kind of hit home as far as something that everyone can understand, and it's already been done. Yeah.
So you said, as a person that works in the healthcare field, I appreciated this thing about in your bio that you said you wanted to overstimulate the fusiform gyrus.
Hmm.
And I was like, yes, I understand that. But functionally defined as like the region for that's critical for visual categorization. And like you said, that's where we can see faces.
Hmm.
Your art functioned as a great equalizer for me, like for race. It's literally, like this is a face. You can interpret it as how many or as little as you want it to be.
Mhm.
Was that always the goal of the series?
No, no. It all started with color. So I started with kind of like pop colors because I was using like Oops Paint from, so yeah, it was more just like a fun Fauvist like type of approach, just was bright colors and when I started getting requests to do pop-ups, I don't like painting, so I just started practicing with markers. And in that different medium, it kind of opened that like neutrality as far as,
Mhm.
how to identify the face. And so yeah, that was just the product of the simplicity, right? Yeah.
Why markers?
Because the
Could
paint markers, they're paint markers and they're like opaque and they're matte and they come in different sizes, so they're actually very good, range of things you can do with, 3 4 different thicknesses, and they can go on any surface, and they're like very portable.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was surprised when I spoke to you about your installation and asking you how many markers it took you to go through that. And I think you said it only took you what, two?
Two, yeah, yeah,
Two.
2 markers. Yeah, I would have to alternate in between the two. I would have to keep them on the table upside down so the ink goes down to the tip. So when like it dried out on the wall, I would just switch them out. Yeah, and then I would have to sharpen them because it would get dull. So I'd have like a razor. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was.
because I know I would have probably been that person like I gotta get 10 packs of
Yeah,
markers to go through this space. But yeah, you were able to do it in two, so you had a good
Did you
manufacturer of marker.
did you ever thought of like like coloring in some of the pieces or the pictures of the faces? Like for example, like this like lip would be like darker, or like this lip would be lighter, or the eyes, or like the skin.
yeah, all of them kind of have bits and pieces of that. Like some do and some don't. Yeah, that's where the mess ups comes in because when the mess up comes in, you color it in, right?
So one of the most powerful and defining things regarding art is the way that it can cross-pollinate through all forms. And you described your work as contemporary portraiture and minimalism. How did this particular art form find its way to you, and what do you think people find about your work that's so engaging?
I think it came to me just Orlando and how much art is in Orlando and in downtown Orlando and just the greater Orlando area because I didn't grow up where there were murals around. I didn't have like art shows where I'm from. Like there was the community college and me being in high school, there was like shows out of like in Lakeland, out of the way of the town. So it was kind of yeah, it wasn't something that was available before. So I think when I came here, I just kind of got, overstimulated by it and just like very just inspired by it. I think the contemporary art side, as opposed to like the fine art side, is very, very different in certain senses. So yeah, I think that's how it came to me. And what was the second question? Sorry.
Why do you think that people find your work so engaging?
Why? I don't know. I think it's just because it's just a little bit simpler than like the traditional what someone would traditionally think of as art. Um,
Mhm.
it's like it's not exactly I wouldn't say it's street art, but I can see if I would be okay with someone saying it's street art. And it's not fine art. And I don't think it's something you would see at a museum. Uh,
Mhm.
I don't think that would be something there. At least I haven't seen something like that besides a Picasso, right? Or something of that sort. So yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
What has been people what was like something that you didn't expect people would like telling you about the work that you created?
I wouldn't expect people to I don't know, it's always a surprise when people like my work, just for what they say and what it reminds them of. Um, people say Picasso and then others say Basquiat and then others say it's graffiti. It's just I'm always surprised. It's really endless. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably the coolest thing about art especially if you're coming from a place where you don't have an art background, that you're able to associate it with other things that you've seen, right?
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah.
sure that you have people who might consider themselves like art enthusiasts to say, oh, this is the Picasso, where you might have that person who's like, this feels like graffiti to me. This is like what I see out when I'm walking around the city.
Yeah.
And it's really cool of what it is that you've done. And then you can realize like the way that it can connect people
Mhm.
based off of just what they feel like art is for them and
Mhm.
what they can relay it to. And that just to me shows the connective power of what it is that you are doing.
Since you dabble a little bit on inspirations, how do like people inspire your art, or are there specific people or a collective that you think about when you're creating?
Just people. I mean, it's their look, and then it's their personality. Like you see someone with like a lot of earrings. You're like, oh wow, she has a lot of earrings, and then you're like, oh, I wonder where she's from, that she just has earrings like that. Like, you know what I mean? Or like hairstyles, and just when you talk to them, it kind of like sometimes it contradicts what you thought, and then sometimes it's exactly what you thought, as far as like, oh, she seems like a sweet person, or he seems like a cool dude, like, you know what I mean? It's really just it's both. Yeah, that's why I'm the portraits, because they have a good look, and when you talk to them, it's like, oh, there's a genuine conversation. You really get to understand something about them, and then I usually add like a little emblem that kind of describes their personality. And so, yeah, I think it's just for me, it's just people. The series is called Familiar Faces, and you know, people that remind us of people.
Has anybody asked you, like, when they saw your like art on the exhibit, they were like, oh, if you made another one, can you include my face? Or like, people be like, is this me? Like your friends or like the people that personally, like, you're like,
Yeah,
Anthony, I think this is me,
yeah, no, all the time, all the time. Yeah,
Do you
I
tell
pop
them the
ups.
truth when
Yeah,
they
and of course. Sometimes it's a surprise. Sometimes I ask them to pose, but I think it's funner when it's a surprise. Yeah.
Huh. I would imagine if you did not include their face and they assumed that it was their face and they asked you, I would probably be like, yeah, girl, that's you. Can't you tell that's you?
Yep, from the eyebrows and everything.
So you were born in New York. At what age did your family transition to the South?
I think I was about like 8 to 10. Yeah, maybe yeah, around that time. I moved from New York, from Queens, to South Florida, the Hollywood area,
Mm-hmm.
and then I lived in Pembroke Pines, and then I moved to Sebring from there. Hmm.
Oh, that's Denny's stomping ground.
Fun fact, I used to live in Hollywood.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, see, this is the product of Hollywood, Florida. Shout out to the boardwalk. It was like 10 minutes away from our apartment. And people would always say, I'm from Hollywood. They're like, oh, California. Nope, Florida.
Yeah, yeah.
So what do you feel like that's a huge transition, especially at an age where you can remember? Because if you were a baby, that would be nothing. But to be like, 10 years old and making this move from this bustling area to this very slow paced type of city, what do you feel you gathered from living in Florida that you either include or leave out in your art?
I gathered in Florida is the love of, you know, like the beaches, I guess like the southern culture and the beach culture.
Mm.
The nature that Florida has is so abundant, and a lot of people just overlook it, because they'll just be like, oh, that's Florida. But beachside is so different. Like, say, Daytona,
Mm.
opposed to like, Sebring, or, South Florida. Like, they're very different vibes. And I think what I took away from all that is just just the Florida culture. Like it's just great, from flamingos to palm trees to oranges. Like I think I love those so much. That's definitely what I took from Florida. Yeah. I used to
I
do flamingos a lot before the faces. Yeah.
I'm glad you talked about like the nature of Florida, because people always think like it's like swampy over here, and then they're like, oh, it's just gators and swamp area. But I
Yeah.
think like um when we were like just looking at you up and like doing some research, like you had this whole thing of like the flamingos, and like um you did like all the art with the flamingos. First of all, I want to see it up because my son is obsessed with
Oh, there's a
flamingos
flamingo right here.
right there.
Yeah,
Because when he went into your exhibit, he's like, "Mommy, there's a face everywhere," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's the point." And he's like, "There's a face, there's a face, there's a face," and I'm like, he's usually very loud, but when he
yeah.
got in there, he was just kind of like quiet and was looking around. And then like you mentioned the flamingos, that maybe one day we'll be able to see that because he
Yeah.
he loves it.
Yeah, yeah, I missed the flamingos too. Once I got into the faces, it kind of was I got obsessed, as you can probably tell. But I hope that I'm really trying to get the flamingos back on it.
Is that how it works for you, where you latch onto an idea and you're like, okay, I'm gonna hyper focus in on this, and this is where I'm gonna be for a while?
Yeah, I mean, when it's something that works, yeah. I think during 2020, I had lost my job, so like I had all these flamingos that I had to sell. So I made so many flamingos, and I never made flamingos again. And so it was just yeah, it was just one of those things. But I do miss it. I still draw flamingos, but the process of the flamingos was like, sketching them out, then getting the wood, then cutting with a jigsaw, and then drawing on the board and then painting it, and that whole process, and then installing it. So yeah, I haven't made flamingos since 2020. That's the one I have behind me is the last one I made.
Oh, you
Oh,
don't have any other ones? That's
Yeah,
your
they're
only
all like,
piece?
yeah, everyone that has one, I sold them all.
Oh, wow. Limited edition right there.
Yeah.
the people can see it. From people that listening, behind Anthony is this cute flamingo wearing like a little shirt with them shoes and a hat. It's really cute. um so you said you're born in New York, but basically grew up in Florida.
Yeah.
um and as they say, as adults, whatever you were exposed to as a young person kind of influences what you would want to do when you get older. um what was the turning point when you said, this is, I want to be an artist and this is what I'm dedicating kind of like my life into?
2020. Yeah. I mean, before like 2018, I say 2017, 2018, I was starting to do art again. I moved in Orlando in 2015. Um, and when I saw the opportunities available in Orlando, that's when I started doing art. 2020, when all that happened, art was the outlet, and brought in kept the lights on. So I think that once I saw that I could do that, especially in that time, I kind of went full forward with that. Yeah. Mhm.
Where do you want to see art go in terms of what, not only just that what is it that you're doing, but maybe some of your peers? What do you see for yourselves in the future when you're talking about your art?
As a community,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, I think a place like Fabo is a great example of what can happen when you have a community that does what we do. Feel that it's very important to. I think like a collective space like Favo or a warehouse or anything, just a place for us to create is really the goal for our community. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a wonderful space for anyone who is currently living in Orlando or visiting. If you can check that place out. It's just an old hotel that has been renovated into these art studios and galleries, and it's just amazing what I had no clue that it existed
Me
until
either.
Right.
my friend
Yeah.
told me he was opening up a gallery there, and to like drive up at night and see it all lit and colorful, and you're like, wait a minute, this has been here next to the 7-Eleven this whole time. Like I had no clue.
Yeah, yeah. No, really, I only found out about it last year, and it's just like the greatest thing. It really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
There needs to be more of those. Yeah, yeah.
Ha- Has that like exhibit opened more doors for you, like artistic wise, or like are you more apt to like explore more mediums?
Yeah, well, it's the biggest thing I've ever done. So that's one thing, and that's my first time doing like time lapses and just like promoting it as much as I do. So yeah, it definitely is a big thing outside of just, the painting that I've done, but the process I had to think about pre and post, doing them, with technology and video and photography. So yeah, definitely opened more pathways, I guess just within me. Uh, just trying different things as far as mediums go.
Hmm.
So you said earlier that when you were drawing those pictures that you were listening to some music. Has the
Mhm.
music always been like, while you're creating, there should always be music? Or, and how much of that influences whatever you create?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I usually put like a playlist to like whatever vibe I'm feeling. I would like, with jazz, I'm feeling jazz, yeah, put on jazz. I'm feeling like pop music, I put on pop music. Hip hop, put on hip hop. It's important because I can't just be there in my silence with drawing all these faces. I go crazy, but it's either music or podcasts. So like, listen to the news a lot. So, I would hear a person's name and I'd try to draw them, and it's just a constant audio to the canvas type of thing. Mhm.
Do you remember what you were listening to when you were doing, that time lapse, and when you were doing that room full of faces?
Yeah, I was on like blues playlists for a while, then I was like on classic dad rock for another one.
Mm.
Because like it depends on what time of day, right? So if I go there at like noon, I'm in like rock mode, But if I go there like around 3, 5, I'm probably like listen to like hip hop something. You know what I mean? It's just and I just go off of that and just a whole bunch of thoughts. So I'll change it whenever like I draw a face and this reminds you of this person. I should play that song, and then I play the song. It's very just like go with the flow type of thing. Yeah.
Where do you dream like your exhibit would be at? Like if you have to create something, whatever it would be, like where do you want an exhibit to be held for you?
An exhibit to be held. I mean, just being in a motel turned to art studio is awesome in itself. I mean, if like maybe like a warehouse that I can do like a crazy installation where I can
Mhm.
do this at a larger scale and have some type of objects in the warehouse, because I had like TV and like a luggage and balloons here. So maybe like that on maybe like a car, maybe like
Mhm.
a car there. I do a car like just this on a bigger scale, however that would be. Hmm.
How does it go when it in terms of like editing? Like you said that earlier, when you come up with the idea, you'll sit there and you'll sketch it out and you'll be like,
Hmm.
okay, this is what I want to do on the canvas or whatever, medium that you choose to put it on. What does the editing process, what is it like for you? Because when you sit down and you're like, okay, I want to put this out, and then you realize like, oh, this might not work. How do you determine what works for you and what might need to change or what stays?
I just make a lot of the same thing over and over until I find. I usually do like, 6, and just play with the copy, right? And yeah, and just documenting the process and just remixing it every time. You only need one, right? So like no matter what, you just got to pick one. So that's how I feel. That kind of simplifies things, but the process is very just, sketch, tracing, add color, fix the color, and yeah.
What advice would you give to an artist or a young artist that is seeing you do what it is that you do, or just, their love for art, to pursue this as a career?
What would I say? I'd say know your audience. What works in one city won't work in the other as far as what people like. There's different specific niche that, speaks to the East Coast as opposed to the West Coast. So it's just one of those things where you should know your audience and know how to be adaptable towards, whatever comes.
Are you planning to venture out soon, like outside of Orlando? Do you want to bring this to other places, or has people asked you to like bring it to somewhere else?
I don't think anyone's asked me out of Orlando. But I mean, I graduate next spring, and who knows what will happen, then. But I'm always open to do new things. Yeah.
Well, it is a gift to have you here and to be able to see your work in Orlando for however long you will reside here. And whoever gets to steal you away, I know that they'll be getting something that is truly amazing, and hopefully that will be all over the world, that people will be able to see your work. And I think that it will be just that it is something that needs to be seen, that will be seen, and we are so grateful to have seen it first here in Orlando.
Yeah.
So we've come to the part of our conversation that we do with every single guest that comes on the show. We like to give you two choices, so it's up to you. And I know that you are an artist, so we'll change it up a bit. We want to know your top 5. Now, that could be books, that could be artists, that could be music, your very favorite of all things, or you can give us a top 5 of the things that you're very excited about that you want people to know.
Okay, cool. Well, I like movie. I like Harry Potter, the Harry Potter series. I think it's cool.
What house do you belong to?
I think I'm Hufflepuff, right?
Yay, my people! You're really a true person.
I think that's what it was. Yes.
Yeah. Welcome. I give you the sash.
Yeah. I love Harry Potter because it's like a Christmas movie, essentially, right? As far as okay, I did a TV show. Um, The Magicians. Have you heard of The Magicians?
Yes, I kind of got hooked onto, because I like anything magic related. So that show, I got hooked onto it, but I kind of had to like let it go because it was consuming me. So I had to stop watching it for a while because it was at a time where it had already been out. So there were a lot of seasons, and I was trying so hard to catch up to where everyone was, and I'm just like, I can't. Because I was doing that, and I think Doctor Who at the same time. But that show, just when they do the little symbols to do the magic, I'm just like fascinated with. I really like that show. Did you finish it all the way through?
Yeah, I just finished it like last month. Like literally, like it's been out for forever, right? So yeah, I loved it though. I remember watching it when the like first season came out and being obsessed. But yeah, Magicians is a TV show.
I'm sensing a theme here. We got Harry Potter.
Yeah. Let's go music. For music, I think blues is like my favorite genre. I think blues is really it.
Any particular musician that is your favorite?
I like Buddy Guy, Muddy Waters and stuff like that. Really just put on a blues playlist and I just go ham. I like Sam Cooke. I really like Sam Cooke when I listen to music. It's kind of my go-to soul. Top 3 musicians would probably be like Sam Cooke, Donny Hathaway, and Amy Winehouse.
Oh,
yeah. So those are just like go-tos. Is it 4, 3? It's 3 music.
3.
3. Okay. 4 would be a book. I love Great Gatsby. I've been reading that book since I was a kid. Every time I like It's like the last book I swear I read like 10 years ago, but it's like I literally have it like right here for me for this last project. Like
Oh, that's a nice
I,
cover.
I always like pick it. Yeah, I have to do a book cover for it. And so because I love the book, right? Great Gatsby, artist, right? My favorite artist. Hmm. I liked Dolly a lot growing up.
Mm.
Thought his work was pretty stellar. Um, yeah, I want to say Dolly growing up because his work is very mesmerizing and like if it's not him, it's I was never really into Picasso. Like growing up, like he was like obviously relevant forever, but like I just never really looked at his work until people started telling me I my work looked like Picasso. Um, but yeah, I think my safe answer is Dolly. As far as like outside of art, like a illustrator, think like the Disney style illustration, like Walt Disney and every other illustrator that was a part of movies like Snow White and that whole golden era of illustration is super inspirational. That's kind of why I started doing the flamingos based off that animation style. This is what I grew up on. Yeah.
I think that's a solid top 5 list right there that you share with us. And just know that if you get off this conversation with us and you're like, damn it, I forgot, I could have said this one. It is okay. It is not set in stone. It is what it is. For this moment, this is what you gifted to us. So
right.
But Anthony, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us in conversation about your work. Like we said, we know that your work is going to be everywhere, that everyone will be able to have the opportunity to see what it is that you are doing and will do. And we are so grateful to be able to have been at this moment. So we can say we knew him when.
No, I'm thanks for having me on my first podcast. Yeah.
We hope we took it easy on you.
It did. It was great. It was a good time.
Yeah. So when when he becomes big in New York, we can say like, oh, we saw his place with a flamingo in the back. We know that.
Yeah.
We know where the last flamingo exists.
Because I think of course, like the potential is palpable. I think that's why people gravitate towards you, and you make art so easy. You make art so relatable
and fun.
Yeah. And the point that my 3-year-old can relate to what you did, it's like, oh, this, you can surpass like from the youngest to the oldest.
Oh, that's a good way of looking at that. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for joining our show. Thank you for celebrating with us. And I hope you do more, you be more.
And all that jazz.
And all that jazz. Yeah. Thank you for having me.
All right. You take care.
All right.
All right. Bye. We hope you enjoyed our show.
Our show has been produced and edited by Preston Long. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our podcast.
Our theme song you've been nodding your head to is by Sean Kantrowitz. You can follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Sean Dammit. That's SeanDammit.
Follow us on Instagram at The Vulgar Geniuses.
Bye!